There are AI websites right now that you could go and narrate for 10 minutes or upload a podcast where you've been talking for 10 minutes to this AI. It will decipher your voice and then give you your voice as Rhys, as Mark, right? Here's your voice pattern here. You could type out anything you want and it will say it in exactly your voice. You can also choose what tone you want it to say it in. And unless I told you this is an AI generated voice, if I told you, you'd be like, oh yeah, I hear it now. But if I just played this to you, like on a WhatsApp audio or something like that, you wouldn't know the difference.
I feel nauseous, believe me. Never had a lot of shit come easy. Had to work hard, struggle just to be me. Had to rise up just so they could see me. Did what I had to do just to feed me. And what was left over I put towards my dreaming. But the only thing in life that has meaning are the things you gotta work for, believe me. Take into your hands a plan, your own hands can land your own brand. And damn, I feel like no one takes accountability. They want the credibility, convincing.
What's going on, everyone? Hope you're well. Welcome back to the podcast From Lambs to Lions. I'm joined here by a very special guest, a personal friend from the other side of the world, Mark Fox. Welcome.
Hey Rhys, how you doing?
Good, mate. Very good. You're the first international guest that we've had on via Zoom in this particular podcast, at least, which is, I'm excited that you're the first one. And rather than butcher your introduction, I'd like you to give everyone an introduction as to who you are and what you do.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's always, the introduction is always the hard thing, like as the interview.
Absolutely.
My name is Mark Fox. I have a company called Fox Consulting, and we essentially help businesses grow their platforms online in the digital space. So what I would do is work with creators to help conceptualize their ideas and then build that out within an app. And then we deliver that to their audience. And then over time, we implement systems and put the structure in place that's needed, the technical infrastructure to help scale those businesses to support massive growth.
Amazing. And how long have you been doing this now?
So I've been doing it at that level probably for 5 or 6 years. Prior to that, I was sort of like just building out websites and understanding how that whole environment worked. And then over the last 2 years, 3 years, launched Kahunas and then focusing on growing that.
I think one of the bigger reasons why I wanted to get you on, other than obviously being a close friend, I think just in the world, where the world is going now in tech development, I think you've obviously got a very big finger on the pulse and understanding on what the possibilities are and the capabilities are. And have grown a lot of businesses through tech over the years. So I think that was a really good place for us to start. What's some of the lessons early on in your journey that you didn't expect to come from running a tech business?
Yeah, some of the lessons. Just overcomplicating things was always, so I've always found that with developers and then what the actual end user wants is two entirely different things. So often we'll be creating something in tech that is extremely complex in being able to deliver that to an end user. And as developers and building upon things can get insanely overwhelming for an end user. So one of the biggest challenges and lessons that I've had to learn is how can we strip this back from a user perspective? So even if you've got something that's like super complicated, from a user perspective, it has to be literally one tap, like to get to where you want to get to. Otherwise, it's just not going to work, despite how good it could be.
Well, I guess it's one of those things, even if it's amazing, if people can't get to the fact of using it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's it. And sometimes the most difficult thing is if you're so close to something that you've built it from the very ground up, to you, things can seem like second nature, where you're like, oh, that's obvious. You're going to click this, you're going to go there, and that's going to do this. And it has all this wonderful technology and features that people can use. But if you have to actually explain to a user how they need to use this to achieve their end result, then you've kind of failed at your job and they just won't use it. To get people to develop new habits in using your systems is almost impossible. And you have to remove that kind of barrier to entry for people, make it super simplistic so that they can just get to where they want to get to almost immediately.
Do you think that's quite synonymous with just business in general, even excluding tech? Just so many founders and owners are so close to the target, they just start building out more and more and more, don't actually get a chance to test?
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of a universal thing. I think often we're always looking for either what's the next best thing or how can we, like what, I think people just overcomplicate things. It's like if I put in these 10 different systems in order to achieve this end goal, because I have all of this stuff that's now supporting what I'm trying to deliver, it must be good. It's super complicated. It's taking me ages to set up. So it must be brilliant. But your user doesn't actually want that. They just want this one thing that they can do to get the result that they want.
Is that something that you've learned the hard way through
Yeah, for
overcomplicating?
sure. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think there's anywhere early in your career that you could have perhaps saved yourself a lot of heartache, a lot of pain, a lot of stress had you just learned to do it the easy way rather than complicated?
Yeah, for sure. And that for me was kind of a big learning curve in learning from other people's mistakes. So I was always very much in the beginning quite stubborn. I'm quite stubborn in general. Like if I have an idea, I'm going to run with it. And early on, I would make mistakes and I would learn the hard way because it costs you a lot of time and money when you make mistakes. And so early on, I kind of realized that I need to learn from other people. And that's where I find that podcasts, books, speaking to brilliant people like yourself, like just trying to understand how the challenges that you faced and where you got to, and understanding what you went through helps me to then kind of redefine what I'm doing and then get to those end goals quicker without making the same mistakes over and over again.
So to paint the picture then, just to play devil's advocate, if we're talking like going down the road of simplicity, it seems to be, on my perspective at least, far more complicated to go down app development than would be website development. What was the shift?
Yeah, for sure. The shift is just user behavior and technologies. So and this will continue to shift like, well, in the immediate future into like AR and then VR and eventually the metaverse and stuff like that. And it's important that as a business, and we did this very quickly with COVID as well, like COVID coming, when your users' behaviors shift, you can't tell people this is how you have to access our content. Because again, it's that resistance to entry is extremely high. If someone's on their phone all the time, and especially, if you're in your 20s or something like that, and you spend the majority of your time consuming content on a phone, if we're trying to force you down the route of going to a website, there's only going to be so much like life, like value to that you're going to go there and actually do it. Like we'd have to have just insane value on a website for you to go to the effort of sitting down your computer and logging in. So it was about like, what do our users want? And then building our systems of functionality around our users, and inevitably apps for fitness and nutrition were going to be the key to delivering it.
Do you think there's still a value or purpose for people in the fitness industry to have websites?
Yeah, I do. I think you have to deliver the content on the platform that your users most used to. So if you're doing workouts and nutrition, it makes sense that if someone's on the go, they can just log in their nutrition, scan a barcode, make it super easy for your users. But if you have long form content, so let's say you want your users to go through like a series about sleep or education, you want to give them something of value, you ideally want those people sitting down at the computer, kind of paying attention, ready, they've got their laptop open, notebook open, and they're sitting there to consume the content in that way. So you really have to adapt to wherever your users consuming your content and then to deliver it in the perfect medium for them.
Yeah, and I guess value is in the eye of the beholder, where my business may be different to yours, and demographics will alter, and where they consume that value will be very, very different. But I like something you said there. You can't really force people to consume content in a way that you want them to, or consume value in a way that you want to. Is that something that for you really opened your eyes to, like, one, what market research really means and how much people's businesses can really differ, understanding that there are different value points and where people consume?
Yeah, for sure. It's so important. And not just in like terms of consuming the content, how you deliver that to someone, but also on the front end as a sales and marketing perspective. Like if you're trying to sell your service on a platform where your audience aren't, you're never going to be successful. And you could have, whether it's your content and you're delivering it to your audience, or the sales process and you're trying to reach your audience, you could have the perfect sales pitch, or you could have the perfect product. But if you're not delivering that product in the right way, or if you're not pitching your service to the right people, the right audience, it's going to fail. But you could have had the perfect thing just sitting there waiting for people to be able to consume.
Yeah, what do they say? The opportunity vehicle can't outperform the market. Like if it's a shit market, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, like, obviously you've gone down the road of tech and you've had 10 years in the industry now of development? More? Yeah,
probably more. I say 10 years because I still think of myself as like in my late 20s, and I'm obviously not. So it's when I think about it hard, I think it's probably more like 15 years, maybe. Yes. Yeah. 15 years probably.
So it's safe to assume in that time that you've had some pretty big highs and some equally large lows. Is there any points in your mind that really stick out as pivotal places that have led you to developing Kahunas to be the coaching app that is, in my opinion, the coaching app of the future? Is there any points that you can look back over, your history in the industry you've gone, that was helpful?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I appreciate your comments about Kahunas. Um, there's been so many different points in my life that have helped me in Kahunas today. Everything that I've learned over the last decade is about building something for your end users with a goal in mind. So all of the wins, all of the losses, all of those things have led to the accumulation of everything we've put into Kahunas. And Kahunas for me, and this is probably the biggest lesson I've learned across everyone that I've ever worked with. So all the people that are hugely successful, make insane amounts of money, have grown their business over years. And with Kahunas is that every single person that's become successful would have done exactly what they're doing, whether they made money or not. They weren't doing it because their goal was, I want to get to 8 figures, I want to get to 9 figures, whatever it is. They did it because they loved it. And because they loved it and because they were passionate about it, it meant that other people were going to get on board with it anyway, because they're inspired by this individual. And then as they grew with everything that they offered, and with Kahunas, I'm building it because the first few years we've been running for sort of 2 years. It was never about money. It was that I would get people contact me all the time saying, I use this coaching platform, that coaching platform, which drives me insane. Can you help me? Can you help me? And I was just like, I'm going to build this. I'm going to build it because I want it to be amazing. And I want people to use it and be like, damn, this is so cool. Thank you for building this for me. And so we're building it for the coaches, not, obviously the fact you get money from it is awesome, but it's building it from the passion and the love of it.
Do you think that that lasts through the longevity of business? As you said, you've worked with people that have made enormous amounts of money. Do you think passion is something that outlasts the profit margins that come with a successful business?
Yeah, I do. I think it's because every single one of those people that I think of, if tomorrow they lost everything, they would continue to do what they're doing. It wouldn't affect it. I think that money both gives you opportunity and options, but it also can complicate things as businesses grow.
Yeah, I agree. I think it definitely, yes and no, actually. I think as you get more money, I think if your perspective of money shifts to being that more money equals more problems, they will inevitably come. Whereas my CFOs helped really kind of drill this into me. I used to very heavily think more money, more problems stresses me out. And I would almost detach from anything related with money within the business. I just kind of let it happen, and what would be. And more problems seem to kind of come up when I just let go. So I think having a perspective of more money, actually shifting to what you said before, to your point, is more opportunity. And it's managing that opportunity and managing the distractions that come with more opportunity. Yeah,
for sure. And I actually learned that from my mum, to be honest. When I was younger, she always said that money doesn't buy happiness, but it gives you the opportunity to do different things in life. Whereas if you don't have money, then you're kind of restricted by your choices.
Yeah. Well, you were just over in Africa, yeah?
Yeah, we were. Yeah, in Tanzania.
So that's a whole experience that I'd assume you would never have been able to do without money.
Yeah, exactly right.
And do you want to tell everyone a little bit about that? I think perspective there is massive from what I saw.
Yeah, perspective is massive. It's one thing to see it or to hear about it, but there's definitely a disconnect between how you consume that content. So if you're seeing it on the internet, or you see it on TV, you're kind of very detached from it, because 2 minutes later you're back in your little bubble where everything is pretty much perfect. We have Western world problems, but for the most part. So we did a trip over Christmas to Tanzania, where we went to see people that are much less fortunate than ourselves, that genuinely struggle day to day, where for them, a typical family of, let's say, a granddad, a mum, a dad, 2 kids would live in a room that's kind of, 3 or 4 meters by 3 or 4 meters. And that room is their life. It's built out of mud and sticks. They have a bed in there. They might have a car battery with wires that go up to the ceiling and a light bulb, and that's all their electricity. In one corner, they'll have a suitcase just full of clothes, and in the other corner, they have pots and pans. And if they want to go out and get water, within their community of 30 or 40 huts, there would be a tap, but it's under lock and key. So you'd have to go to whoever's the leader of the community to get the key to access water. Wow. And their life was just survival. That's all it was day to day, is just, how do I survive tomorrow? Where do I get the food to eat for tomorrow? And then, we'd on the way there, like as we're traveling over there, or even afterwards, there'd be times where things happen to me, like my iPhone might be dying or something, or we'd be out in the middle of Africa and I'm getting stressed out because I haven't got 5G and I can't check my emails.
Yeah.
And there's moments where you just have to kick yourself in the ass and say, like, come on, there's people in much worse situations.
I can imagine that would have been an extremely interesting and eye-opening contrast from, being in the world of tech to going over to where tech almost non-existent.
Yeah, for sure. And I found it, so for me, my brain always wants to try and solve. I see a problem and I want to fix it. And if I can't immediately fix it, then I get quite upset, like frustrated about it. And this was a real kind of, not eye-opener, but a perspective shift for me, because we would go there and talk to these families, and some of them would be like, they were like wash clothes for other communities, other neighbors. They'd wash clothes or shoes or whatever to try and get some money to be able to buy something. And I would, and I remember sitting there and talking to one family, and I was like, oh, what you could do is, like, if you went to the market, you could buy up all of this rice or whatever. You could then come back, cook this, that, and the other, or you could get a stall in the local market. You could set up a stall. You could do this, that, and the other. And I was trying to almost coach them on how you could set up a little business. Yeah. And then you could use that to then like get more money, better yourself, move to a different area, like all those sorts of things that you would expect. And they just didn't care. It's just not, there's just no interest whatsoever in doing that, because all they care about is tomorrow. Like, how do they survive today for tomorrow? And it's, for me, it was like a real, I don't know, does it sound dumb to say, like for me, it was a real like step back of, wow, like some people just, they don't want that or have any more aspirations to do that. They just want to survive.
I struggle with that concept as well, just even in like bringing this full circle back to westernized business. Like talking to clients often where they're content, they're happy, and growth is no longer on their mind. I understand it and I can appreciate it, but it does frustrate me. I sit there and I go, why? There is this opportunity here where you could do more and you can become bigger and you can so on and so forth, but it's just not it's not innately ingrained into a lot of people, surprisingly. Yeah.
And that's something that for a long time I did struggle with. And even with like other experiences I've had just with the same thing, where it's almost like I've tried desperately to, it's the old saying of like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't get it to drink, where I've tried desperately to help people get to that point. And through whatever I've done, it just doesn't work. And it's because they don't want it. And that for me has always been difficult to understand.
Were you always innately an entrepreneur, so to speak, or a business person?
Yeah, I didn't know that's what it was, but I always would seek opportunities where possible, and I never liked having a boss like telling me this is how things should be done. I always thought I could do it better. I joined a recruitment company at 17, and after 3 weeks, that's just 3 weeks of work experiences in a recruitment agency, I decided I could start my own recruitment agency and run my own business. But even at like 14 years old, I remember being 14, 15, like at a parents' evening at school, and we'd have like in the auditorium, all of the seats at the back and the teachers and everyone are down on the floor. And I was selling fake IDs in school for like a few quid. And I had like, in those days you could get away with, it was like laminated fake IDs. Yeah. So I would use my mum's scanner at home, the computer at home. I was making fake IDs. I was at the back of this auditorium at parents' evening, selling off the IDs to everyone and collecting cash at like 14, 15 years old.
Did you ever get caught?
No, there was a funny instance where we went to a bar, and so you had to make them thick, right? Because they were quite thick, these IDs. And so what I used to do was I would precisely cut out like cereal packs, like Frosties or Cocoa Pops or something like that. And there was a time where my friend's ID had just been used for so long, and it always worked. And we went to go in this one bar, and the bouncer grabbed it off of him. He was like, let's have a look at that. And he kind of started peeling at the laminate, and I was thinking, oh shit. And then as he opened it up, like he pulls off the bit with the picture and the details, and then there's just like a part of a Frosties packet in the middle, which was super embarrassing. And then the bouncer like calls all of his mates, and they all come out and they're all laughing. But yeah, that was the extent of like getting caught.
I think, look, man, I don't know if there's many entrepreneurs that are notable that don't have stories that are somewhat similar, where they were just finding a way to sell stuff to make cash. And it's super synonymous of like all the people that I speak to that are all successful in their field. They've always had that little spark, that little thing. Yeah. Where did that lead you? Like if we kind of bring this back to some of the lower points in business and some of the points that where you maybe had your back up against the wall because you had that innate drive to do more, get better, and that obviously comes with more risk. Were there any points where that stand out as a low point for you? And more importantly, how did you get out of them?
Yeah, for sure. One of the biggest low points for us was almost going bankrupt. Like this happened twice, actually, not just once. So when I was 17, I tried to start that recruitment company. Obviously, after 3 weeks experience at 17 years old, trying to build a recruitment business, probably not going to work out. So I managed to keep it going for a couple of years, but it just so happened timing with, and this isn't an excuse for it because I'm, in control of my own decisions, but the UK recession hit and I was just building debt. You used to have to pay to access these like CV libraries and they were super expensive. So I had contracts signed in for various different things to be able to try and grow this business, and everything went tits up and just debt rose and rose and rose and rose to a point where I owed a considerable amount of money and this recruitment business just died. And I sat with an insolvency practitioner and he was like, you're going to have to go bankrupt. Like this doesn't look good. But being stubborn, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't want to. So my wife and I moved to this tiny little house on a council estate. We used to we used to have like the equivalent of like £10. So like, what's that? 13 Australian dollars, something like that a week for food. So we'd go and buy like pasta and tomato sauce. And like, we were making these just like bulk pasta dishes and stuff to be able to survive. I sold my car to be able to pay people that were like working with me. And this, it was horrendous. And so at that point, I wasn't really sure what to do, but because of the recruitment agency, I had to create a website for the recruitment agency to try and drive up business so I could send people there. And I taught myself how to do that. So with this only skill left over of being able to build websites, I started to like build websites very, very cheap for people, started to build that up as a business, started to work for people for free. And then over time, just developed my skills in website design development, and then ultimately got to where we are today.
I want to hone in on one of those things that you said there. You did a lot of work for free. I talk to a lot of business owners now, and I think this might be just a sign of the times or, modern day problems, whatever you might call it. There are not many young business owners now that are willing to work for free. And there is a sense of entitlement that comes with, I think, the instant gratification that comes with like social media and stuff. People think it's so much easier to build a business and they're far less likely to work for free.
Sure.
How much time do you think you did for free? And what was the end ROI on that if we flash forward?
Insane amounts of time for free. I actually don't know anyone who's successful in business that at some point hasn't worked their ass off for free or for very, very little. So for me, it was, and it's a great opportunity. If you're working for free, it's just a great opportunity to get experience in doing something that you're not like, that you don't have the level of experience and knowledge to be paid for anyway, really. Like if you haven't jumped in and worked with people on any level or any capacity, you don't really, like, why should someone pay you? So you kind of have to prove yourself. So I spent weeks, months, like even and years. And when I say years, I genuinely mean it. So my business model, after a couple of years of working for doing loads of work for very small amounts of money in return, my business model was that I would approach influencers and people who are very high up in the industry. And my business model was, I will work for you for free. I will personally pay for people to join me. Well, in the beginning, it was just me, and I would sit there coding, but I will do all of this for free. And in return, when we start to make money in the future, I'll take a percentage of profits from your business. And so every person I've worked with, I invested my time, my money for free, because I knew that if they gave me that opportunity, that at the end I would make money back.
Well, it's the analogy of like, do you want the small piece of the pie or a bigger pie?
Yeah.
I think like that's something that I've implemented into my own business is like, all my staff have profit shares. Purely because like, yes, it's my percentage is now smaller, but if they are incentivized to help the piece of the pie grow, and each of them are doing that compounds and the pie gets bigger. And it's very, very similar to what you're doing there with like, approach the right people with the right product, know that you can provide value to it and build it. And a percentage model then I'd assume would have worked out very well for you in an ROI, even if you look at all that time for free, would have been well worth it.
Yeah, totally. It's been, I always do in the beginning, like that if I apply myself to something, and also on the risk that you don't get anything in return. Like if I know at the end of the month my rent's not getting paid or I can't afford to put food on the table,
Yeah.
I've been in that position. I know how terrifying that is, like to have sleepless nights. But I know that if that's a possibility of what could happen, that I'm going to work my ass off in order to ensure that it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, over years, like the businesses now that I work with and Kahunas are doing extremely well. So on a percentage basis, it worked out pretty good.
Do you have any strategies or even things that you've learned from others along the way, whether it be anecdotal or practical, of ways to have that conversation for people at home that may be working for free that might be able to actually then either create some sort of agreement on percentage or get themselves paid at a later date? Do you have any strategies on how to make that happen?
Yeah. I mean, because it would be different, like depending on the business that you have.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was, for example, if I was a coach, then and you're probably better to advise on this than I am, but as a coach, I would seek out family members, friends, people that I could do transformations with, and I would make damn sure that they achieve that transformation. Even if I had to get up and go and knock on my brother's door at 6 a.m. to drag him out to go and do his cardio, because it was going to be a reflection of me and help me to grow my business in the future. And I needed that testimonial. I'd be banging on his door at 6 o'clock. I'd be feeding him food to make sure that like he was going to get that transformation so that I could use it to then help grow my business.
Yeah.
And in that sense, I mean, it's sort of the same in that if you're going to go and work for a business on a percentage basis, you kind of need something to prove to that person, like at the beginning. So I would initially, if I was going to do it now, I would say to people, if they weren't prepared to pay a contract, to sign to a contract in the beginning, I'd be like, all right, let me come and work for you for free, nothing, no contract for 3 months. Give me 3 months and I'm going to do this. And here's the actionable things that we look at the end to determine, to quantify and see how much success was gained in that 3 months. And if at the end of 3 months you think it's a good idea, then we'll sign this contract and we'll move forward. And then same thing, in that 3 months, I would just make damn sure that every single thing I did led to that end goal, that end target.
Yeah, and you could actually like paint the picture, show the story that what you did influenced their outcome.
Yeah, exactly right.
I think that's very, very, very critical for a lot of, even if we stick within fitness, small business, if you're able to deliver on something that you promise and that you over deliver on early, asking for money for it after should be far, far easier. I'd even take that one step further. If you can over deliver on your core group of friends and do it for free and get good results, then you have something to promote, to send to all that you could cold DM hundreds of people and then show a montage of results and be like, hey, I'm now taking on X amount of people to trial my new or beta test my new system, my new program, my new thing. This is how it worked last time, but I've made some improvements. I want to test it on a few people. It's now, and you insert X price, but because you now have the social proof and just say you're beta testing, give them a reason to buy, easy.
Yeah, exactly.
And
that's how I would do it too.
You have, and like I'd assume you have so much capacity to do that kind of stuff now, and like the people that you work with within Kahunas, because of that's something you can make so easy and so accessible, whether it be program nutrition and comparisons of photos, you're able to just go, well, I have this new offer, and you can create new offers like clockwork.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, on Kahunas, that's super easy to do. And it's like, as you're building up, because a lot of people then get to kind of a ceiling limit, I think, whereby they go from free to then very low ticket, like they're charging, much less than everyone else in the market. And then they get to a point of capacity where they're not really sure what to do. But for me, and the same in my business, that's then where once I reached like 5 clients or 5 businesses I was involved in, I was like, I just can't do any more. So then when I would get approached by people, for the next people coming in, I was like, well, now all my experience is at this level. And now what I'm able to do is I can do it much quicker. So when I have a space, it's going to be this price now instead of the previous prices. And then that's then where you can start to increase your pricing, because you're now worth more because of the experience that you have and your ability to do the job. So then over time, you filter out the people that are paying you X amount start to reduce. And every time you lose one, you add another one in at a higher price point. And then you do that over time.
I can already hear coaches at home sitting here going like, this is the dichotomy of pricing. It's faster. Should I not charge less and beat my competition to the bottom? What's your opinion there?
Yeah.
What's going on, everyone? Hope you're well. I won't keep you too long. I know you're hopefully enjoying the podcast. And if you are, let us know. It would be really greatly appreciated if you can jump on, give us a quick 5-star review. You don't even need to stop listening to the show. If you're on Spotify, you can do it in less than 10 seconds. And it does help the show grow a lot. It helps us, get a bit of confirmation bias that we're doing the right thing. And just to say thank you, if you guys do that, we're going to be picking one person every month to guest spot on the podcast that has shared, liked, commented, subscribed, and interacted with what we do. Big thank you. Let's get back to it.
No, if you could do it faster, you should charge way more money.
I agree. I agree.
Imagine if I was going to go to someone to like rebrand my business, or to like, let's say, just say create me a logo or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that person says, it's going to take me 6 months to create your logo and a slogan. I'm going to spend 40 hours a week on it. And so here's the total hours over 6 months. It's going to cost you $5,000, $10,000, whatever they're going to charge for it.
Yeah.
Let's say I've got the same person who can deliver me that exact same thing that I want in 3 days, and they're going to charge me twice the price for it. I'm going to pay the guy that could do it in 3 days. I don't want to wait 6 months for a logo.
I agree. The problem is where most coaches, especially in the fitness industry, they have some sort of moral dilemma that if they can do things faster, and this is where I think maybe bringing this back into the app world, I think there's probably been an adoption rate resistance by coaches. Yes, they know there's a better UI for going into an app. Yes, they know that it's easier for the client, and they can probably handle more volume and do their job faster. But I think there's still this ego attachment to sticking with the old school method, whether it be sheets, whether it be manual input of data and all of that. And that's where they leverage their value, because it's manual. And I've spoken to so many people that when they go down the road of efficiency and faster and going down apps and even templating plans, they're like, well, should that not reflect in a reduction of price and just go for a higher volume? And I couldn't disagree more. But I do see it to be a problem within our industry where people do show resistance to apps for that reason.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think it's just the way you're looking at it, right? It's a perspective shift on you being able to deliver your service. If you can deliver your service at the level that you're used to giving people, but you make it more convenient for the end user, and you could streamline your process, then it's a win-win for everyone. I actually remember this very brief story. It's like an anecdote of a company that built a massive ship, right? So they built this huge ship. They're about to release it and go and launch it. But there's a knocking sound in the engine. And they get companies in who spend weeks, months. They can't figure out what this knocking sound is. They spend loads on people trying to evaluate and find out what this knocking sound is. And then they find this guy and they hire him, and he comes in, this old man with a little old tool bag and a little hammer. And he comes in, he's walking around the engine, he's listening, puts a glass up to the engine, he's listening, gets his hammer out, taps, noise goes away. And then the next week his invoice turns up. It says $10,000. And the CEO calls him up. He's like, what do you mean $10,000? It took you 30 seconds to fix that problem. And he said, yeah, it was $15 for the labor, for the work to do it. And it was $9,925 for the experience, the last 30, 40 years experience and my knowledge to know where to hit the hammer. And I think that's important. I think people just forget that the fact that you could do it quickly is because you're now an expert.
Yeah. And you have the systems of which that you've had to either outlay in time, money, effort, etc., to find out that is the efficient way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I know quite a lot of people who, because they feel like they're doing a lot of work, it means that it must be valuable, or that's why they're getting money, is because they're doing so much work. They're exhausted doing it and kind of fail to realize that. And I almost liken it to being the guy at the gym that's doing 50 sets for legs. He's in there 3 hours, he's exhausting himself. His legs are growing, but it's not because of what he's doing. It's in spite of what he's doing. Yeah. If he actually just had a more efficient workout that did perhaps 3 exercises, you'd probably get better results. Just because you're doing so much volume on something doesn't mean that that's the reason why you're successful.
I fully agree. And I think that comes down to work ethic within business as well. Has there been times for you that you've done more and more and more and more work and had a lesser ROI?
Yes.
Yeah. What have you learned from that?
So the biggest, I do it even now to today, I still do it. And I have to remind myself on a daily basis not to. And I have a tendency to micromanage because I don't know, this makes me sound like an egotistical twat, but I kind of always feel like I can do the job better, or I know the best solution. And so the last couple of weeks, we brought in a new technical project manager on Kahunas, and they are brilliant. They are insanely good at what they do. And I've realized that when I interfere, it doesn't make them go any faster. And in fact, I slow them down because I'm in Slack barking orders every 2 minutes of what's supposed to be done. And over the last week, I've pulled back and allowed them to do it. And they've been way more efficient. They've made less mistakes. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. That's difficult for me, because when I do more, it causes everything to slow down. But I feel like that's what I should be doing.
Yeah, well, when you do more, though, it creates doubt in their eyes whether they can or not, and they're going to be less efficient. I've dealt with that and still deal with that constantly. It's very hard. It's something
it's so difficult, isn't it?
It is. I think delegating, it's like in theory very easy, but in practicality, it's near impossible.
Yeah, it really is. Like finding the right people for the team is so important to the success of it. But then when you go to that level of effort to get the right people, you need to trust them and trust that they're going to be able to do the job that you've hired them for, and give them like enough rope to be able to go out and do it. Yeah,
I agree. With Kahunas, what was obviously there was a gap in the market and there were some really frustrating platforms, and there was a gap to fill. But what was the strategical play for you, and how did you get it off the ground? Because I think there's a lot of lessons there in the strategy and the tactics of which you went through that a lot of any business, whether it be tech, whether it be labor, that can employ.
Yeah, for sure. It was, so in the beginning, you're right, it was just a demand for it. Like because of the platforms I worked on, some people started to realize that, hey, this is the guy behind so-and-so platform. So they would DM me and they were like, hey, I need a coaching platform. And eventually got to the point of enough people want this, so I need to build it. And I'd had a very limited kind of coaching experience in the sense of I was a client. So I've hired coaches before and gone through that process. So I thought I had some idea as to what was involved. I logged into the various different platforms, did my research on those. And I had a pretty good understanding from fitness and nutrition in general, because I'd built out platforms that have tens of thousands of users on them. So I used all of that knowledge to create the MVP of Kahunas. And I'd always advise that everyone does this. So don't create the perfect thing to launch, because that will never happen. Create your minimal viable product. What is the minimal thing that you can do that's going to meet expectations where people can start using it? And it was always the goal of like launching it as like just like a beta launch, so we could get something out and then get people using it. And we gave loads of accounts for free, just like we talked about before, like loads of accounts for free to coaches, and asked them, hey, try it out. You'll get access to live for free as we evolve it, and we'll work with you to build it. And it was very obvious that our MVP was exactly that. It was minimal, because as you inevitably add more coaches, everyone has a very different style of coaching. So then the complexity lies in, how do we create a system that can be used in all these different like user cases and build it to scale? And the only way really was to just spend a lot of time with our audience, like a lot of time with our potential customers, on calls, in Facebook groups, and really trying to understand on a granular level, like what it is that people want. And in the beginning, even a year in, like even longer than that, I was still the person in IG support. I was the person on the support, because I wanted to be able to really understand what is it that are the pain points in our system for our end users. And only by understanding exactly what it is that's causing stress for people was I able then to conceptualize and help build out different ways to overcome those objections to people, so that we can make it a good platform. And the only way it works is if we work with the coaches. So we're generally like building it from the feedback of coaches for coaches to use.
Did you, when you first conceptualized the idea, did you intend for it to be a product that can serve the mass of the market and the high end coach that manages all data versus the person that only works with Gen Pop? Did you intend for it to be that all along, or is that just where it went?
It's just where it's gone. Like I initially intended it to be predominantly for like comp prep. So for people that were, or not just comp prep, but like high end clients, people that were specifically that had experience, etc. Because that was really the people that I'd worked with. So all the people in the other businesses I worked in had a high level of experience with competitors, with people that were very serious and rigid about their training and rigid about their nutrition. But having that initially of how rigid things were made it difficult, because with Gen Pop, things need to be flexible.
And they're the biggest portion of the market too.
Exactly. There's only so many like comp prep clients or coaches or people at that level. And so although that was awesome for us to get feedback initially, but yeah, to be realistic with a business, like it has to be targeted to a bigger market.
Did you have any, or did you struggle with any like sort of ego attachment to that higher end product when you first decided to regress back and make it open and flexible to the masses?
No, I always just wanted to build something that people love using.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the most important thing. And so when someone comes to me and they're having like huge difficulty, they're wasting so much time just trying to use their current system, and then they move to Kahunas, like some of the messages, even now that I get from people are just, they are so happy that their life is now easier, that is kind of what, like when I see that, I'm like, awesome. Like, because we behind the scenes and in any business, you have like a list of 100 problems that you're dealing with at any one time. And so when that's your day to day, those little messages I get from people makes me understand that it's the right decision, that like more people need this and need access to it.
Well, I was actually talking to someone this morning that only had come across Kahunas that day. So he was from the UK, and he must have found me from the podcast that I was on with you, and he shot me over a message, asked a couple questions, and then he mentioned in a voice note that he's only found Kahunas in the last 12 hours and his mind has been blown already.
That's so cool.
So like,
it makes me so happy.
Yeah, well, that means like you're creating this, like you're reducing buyer's remorse so quickly and showing value so fast, which I'd like to talk about. Like, is that something that you've planned out onto how to reduce buyer's remorse and how to make people see value fast? And what are some of the implementations that you've kind of put in place to do so?
Yeah, that's just, do you know what? I'd love to be able to say, yes, we sat down and we meticulously looked at all of our metrics and determined that we need to put more effort here to make it better in this specific area for like our onboarding.
Yep.
We haven't done that. Like all that has really been done, and we need to be much more precise on our metrics and stuff. But I'll be honest, it's kind of been, it's just it started out as like a passion project. Like and this is what we talked about at the beginning. Like I want to make it brilliant for people. And do I need to focus on those metrics at some point? Yes, I do. And will it make sense to put more effort into different areas to help grow the business? Yes, of course it will. And that needs to happen. But right now it's just, I listen to what people are telling me and I'm like, lots of people are not happy with this particular thing. We need to fix it, or we need to make it better. And then I put all of our efforts into that to make it better. And by doing that, it means that when people come onto the system, they're getting a platform that gives them everything that they need. There hasn't been like a specific targeted thing in terms of metrics to do that. And so a prime example is the nutrition. We launched the nutrition logger in the app Christmas time, and it's good. Like I've got loads of DMs from people that say they love it. It's amazing. They're even using it themselves over other like nutrition logging apps. But for me, I'm like, it's not good enough. Like it needs to be, nutrition and workouts has to be the flagship of our product. It has to be so good that I don't ever want a bug or someone messaging saying this food isn't correct or something like that.
Yeah.
And so we've literally paused most other developments whilst we focus on, I've just purchased a licensed verified database, and we're now integrating that. It's going to have 20 nutrients alongside every single food. It's going to have 900,000 verified foods. It's going to have 600,000 barcodes. So we're implementing that right now. And over the next couple of weeks, we're going to roll that out. But even that's not enough. I'm like, how do we circumvent if someone has put in a food wrong? Like, how do we fix that? Like, just so many things. I just sit there all the time and I'm thinking like, how can we make this better? And as much as we get messages saying it's brilliant, to me, it's like 50% of where I know it's going to be.
Okay, so let's flash forward into the future with like what's next for Kahunas, both from a development perspective as Mark the coder, but also Mark the founder, the business owner. Like what do you guys want to do?
So we're going to, nutrition workouts has to be absolutely perfect, right? That's, as we said, so the focus is making those outstanding. And I mean outstanding, better than other platforms that have tens of millions of dollars thrown into them. I'm going to make it brilliant. And if I don't, I won't sleep until it's done.
I believe that.
And the same effort's going to go into workouts. So the workouts at the moment are good, but really, if you're a very high level coach and you want to build out a plan with volume accumulation over time, you want to do mesocycles, you want to do like more advanced levels of coaching, or even if you perhaps coach in a slightly different way, you want timed exercises, you want to do circuits, all of that needs to be considered.
Mhm.
Volume calculations, building that in, and having a much more user-friendly but meticulous way as to how you can visualize your client data from logging workouts. All of that needs to be done. So once we've got nutrition and we've got that done, for me, and I want to do this today, but I need to wait just so we get it right, is the biometric feedback, and then building out our own like algorithm and AI in order to support that. So we'll have integration of Fitbit, Aura, Apple Watch, Google Health devices in the beginning. And then that will, as soon as we got that done, which will probably be going to be close to like May, June sort of time, having the wearable integration. Then for the rest of the year, I'm hiring like machine learning, just data analysts and developers that are going to be using all of the data that's being collected to create algorithms that will be able to help you with your coaching and really streamline everything that you're doing.
So that's more so to just increase like volume and capacity of each coach, which in theory would mean like just thinking forward, like Kahuna's price point would be able to be elevated and escalated as a result of.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, cool. With I'm curious, just like I feel like from all the podcasts that I have listened to, all the content that you've done, there is always a lot of talk about tech and AI, and that's something that comes up quite often. Has there been any change in the business model since the birth of ChatGPT?
There hasn't. We've always had the intention to do the AI anyway. I think on a podcast probably a year ago, I was talking about it. So that's always been there. I'm just very aware of like AI and what's out there, what's coming, what expectations there are. And so for me, it's inevitable that it's going to become an ingrained part of our life, like in so many aspects. And really, like with all technologies, like in 1999, 2000, if you didn't adapt to the internet, then your business wouldn't have survived.
Yep.
And it's the same today. It's knowing about AI today and not capitalizing on it would be like knowing about the internet in the millennium and just not capitalizing on it. Like this is a natural progression in terms of technology, and it's going to continue to get exponentially more impressive over the next few years.
How can people at home, whether they're maybe a little bit behind the eight ball with whether it regards to tech in general or AI and the advancements in it, how do you think people can leverage some opportunity in the coming years?
There is so much opportunity like to be made from like the companies tomorrow that are going to be worth trillions of dollars are the companies that are going to be able to integrate the current AI systems that are available with the end user. So right now, if you can think of solutions to problems that can have the backing of something like ChatGPT and their OpenAI, or the technologies that are coming, those are going to be the big companies. And to give you an example, you know, the thing that went viral where everyone had those avatar images.
Yep.
So to do that, you can actually do that for free. Like you can go on, there's very simple websites. I think they use, I don't know if they use, I think it was DALL-E maybe that they used to do it, but one of the open AIs that allows you to put in some text and then it's going to create an image for you. So the image is just a unique image created from nothing. So you can actually go online and do that for free yourself. To do it is a step-by-step process, and it takes a little bit of time. Some guy thought, well, what I'll do is I'll create the front interface for people to be able to do that, and I'll charge $20 for them to access it.
Yep.
And his app is number one above Instagram, above Facebook, like in the App Store. Like he built it a few weeks ago, $20 a pop. Like how much money does that guy make? And because he saw that opportunity and just connected up, he created some code, but he's just connecting up your ease of accessing an AI. And the people that do that are going to be the ones that create the insane companies over the next couple of years.
And ultimately, like AI, the opportunity here to really put this back into layman's terms is it reduces time delay, reduces lag. So if you can create some sort of thing in your business that reduces so much time delay and reduces and gets the user a response, an outcome as fast as possible, you're going to win.
Yeah. And I can give you an example off the top of my head, like of something that you could do that would be a really cool tool for your business that would take away a lot of hassle. There are AI websites right now that you could go and narrate for 10 minutes or upload a podcast where you've been talking for 10 minutes to this AI. It will decipher your voice and then give you your voice as Rhys, as Mark, right? Here's your voice pattern here. You could type out anything you want and it will say it in exactly your voice. You can also choose what tone you want it to say it in. And unless I told you this is an AI generated voice, if I told you, you'd be like, oh yeah, I hear it now. But if I just played this to you, like on a WhatsApp audio or something like that, you wouldn't know the difference. Now take that service, and then there's a service that allows you to record a video. And in the video, so let's say it's an email sign up, or better yet, let's say you've DM'd me, right? And so I want to say, hey, Rhys, thanks so much for your DM. I really appreciate you reaching out to me. Just want to shoot you a quick video to let you know that I've got your DM. I'm going to be messaging you back in the next like 6 hours or something like that, right? In the video, you say, hey, name, thank you so much for your DM, blah, 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 blah. You can then type out, and so on this system, you type out every single name. So I type in Rhys, Mark, Jordan, Joe, whoever in this list. And the AI will replace the name with the voice pattern, right? So this is in that system, but you can connect those two systems together so that it will do it in my voice. So I now have a video that can personalize video to the individual, and I could hook up my Instagram DMs with another system. That means that when I get a DM from you, it's going to go through this other system. It's going to identify that you're Rhys. It's then going to create a video saying, hi, Rhys, thanks so much for your video. It's then going to post that video back into the chat. I've done nothing. And you, as someone that's just contacted me, has got a personalized video from me to you, and you wouldn't know that it didn't come from me.
Here's another example. Take that example to another level. If you had someone buy your product and you wanted to send them a personalized thank you, you could essentially hire out a VA. A VA maybe cost you $1,000 a month, right? To be continuously just sending thank you and welcome videos to all of the people that sign up to your service. Or alternatively, same thing, connect the video, connect the audio, and you could be procuring partnerships every single day, reaching out to, hey, Mark, we'd love to work with you. This is why, this is what we do. And bolstering your service with value from other people's time. Yeah. All through AI.
Imagine you get that like 2 minutes after signing up to something as well. Like imagine I opt into something with you, and 2 minutes later, I get a personalized video from you. And it's like, hey, Mark, I would be like, what? Like, how? He just contacted me in 2 minutes? Like, is that guy, is he just sitting on his phone waiting for me? Like, like that has so much value.
That's something that we've actually put into our business. And like, it's my phone background is TKAD, it's Time Kills All Deals. And, you know, whenever we get an inquiry, like I don't work in the business anymore, but whenever we get an inquiry, I call them, and like it's a two minute delay, and everyone is like, what is going on? So yeah, there's definitely some power in there. If you can get things faster through AI and automation, game over.
I'm pretty sure as well. Sorry.
No, you go for it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've seen, so there's an AI website called Synthesia, I think it's how you pronounce it, .ai. And that uses like real video. You can type in everything like you want it to say. It's going to just say it. You can pay them, I think it's like $1,500 to have yourself created as an AI, like a photorealistic avatar. And so you pay them, it takes like 10 days, they create it. I'm not affiliated with them in any way, by the way. But they create you as an AI. So now imagine you have that done, and then you use this voice service that I just mentioned that records your voice. Right now, you could create, and it'd probably fall like 8 out of 10 people right now that it's not you. But this is today, like January 2023. Like in a year's time, 2 years' time, you will be able to create, like I'd be able to type in something like Mark Fox running down the beach singing like a song, like, and it will just produce that video from media that I've given it. And so, and in a year's time, think of the possibilities. You could do that. You could create a whole education platform where you didn't record one bit of information.
Your whole acquisition pipeline all of your content can be created through scripting.
Yeah.
Like, it's wild. The capacity here is insane. I'd like to just touch on a couple more things before we wrap it up, mate.
Sure.
I think we could go on forever about tech, and I love it. But I'd like to talk about a little bit more about you as a business owner and some of the pillars that you employ into your business, and some of the things that you've really started to try and like build upon being the business owner. What are some of the things that you kind of on a day-to-day will put into your business and that you really stand by that has created the success that you have?
The thing that's created the success for sure is having it, is knowing that you're not the best at every single job that you do, and then having the right people in your team and being able to instill in your team the same beliefs and passion that you have in what it is that you're doing. I would prefer to hire someone that doesn't have necessarily all the right skills to do the job, but I know that I can nurture and train that person into becoming part of the team than to hire someone who's an expert but really doesn't give a shit about what we're doing. It's having the right people in place and being able to bring a team together is, in my opinion, what's allowed us to grow businesses to the extent that we have.
What are some of the strategies that you've put in place to grow the team or to create that culture and to get them to understand the vision?
I think it's very important. So for me, what works, I think, is just genuinely caring about the people that work with you and understanding, like, what is it that motivates them? Why are they doing the job they're doing? What gets them out of bed in the morning? And just taking time to actually understand them on a personal level, so that through working together, you can help them achieve whatever their goal is or whatever their target is in life. And by doing that, if we all work together, instead of I'm your boss and I'm telling you X, Y, and Z, then people are inclined to do anything for you.
Collaborate, don't compete. I feel like a lot of people, even within their staff, they start to compete and create competition on a downward scale, like it's me versus you and I'm above. It always gets a bit toxic. I've seen it happen a few times.
I want to lift people up. Like every single person that I work with, and I always say work with as opposed to people working for me.
I agree.
Like I want people in the business who want to be successful and want to be part of something that's more than just getting paid like X amount of money. And I know that for any single person in my team, if I messaged them at 11 o'clock on a Sunday night and I was like, hey, can you do me a solid? Like, I need this doing by tomorrow. Can you do it? Every single person in the team would say yes. They would do it 11 o'clock on a Sunday night.
Yeah. What do you think here's a good question. What do you think some of your staff would say about you as an owner manager?
I dread to think, no, I'm joking. I think they'd say that I am meticulous, that I expect all of us to work to the best of our abilities, and that I think they say that I'm a good leader and that they enjoy being part of the business, but that I need to butt out more often and let them just do their thing.
I could probably think that was probably very similar to what my staff would say about me. I'll wrap it up with this, mate. What do you think are some of the qualities that any business owner needs to create scale in their industry?
To create scale, you need a good team, and you need, as much as you might not want to, you need systems and processes. You need like well thought out, documented procedures, processes, like going through the operations of everything and making sure that you have that in place. You almost need to create a blueprint for your business. So have that documented down to the, like, on a granular level. And if you have those processes and systems in place and you have a team that can support you to scale, then they're kind of the perfect ingredients. And then you just need to, assuming all your front ends figured out and everything, then you can just add fuel to the fire and grow exponentially.
Excellent, mate. Where can people find you, and what have you got going on in your world that they should go check out?
Check out kahunas.io, and the Instagram account, YouTube, TikTok, etc. is kahunas.io. Posting content every single day, various different things going on with the Kahunas. And my personal, if anyone's interested in seeing pictures of food and dogs, is Mark Covey Fox.
Amazing, mate. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And I think a lot of people have got a lot out of this. So a very big thank you.
Thank you so much, Rhys. I'm so grateful.
It's only worth it if you work for it. I won't stop till they hear me now. I won't stop till I wear the crown.